to the past. I'm just going to share this. So we're going to keep, obviously we're running late, so we're going to keep our part nice and snappy and nice and quick. We've all got Saturday evenings to go to, and the football's on. So let's get on with this. Can we all see that? Is that okay?
I can see your screen, yes.
Yeah, cool. So that's us. We're Zap to the Past. For those who don't know who we are a C64 podcast. We're we're about 4 months old now, so we've been running since beginning of February. We've got about 21 episodes out. What are we? I had always wanted to do a podcast about something, and so it seemed logical with both myself and Graham's love of Commodore 64 games from back in the 80s. We should probably do something around that, but it was tricky to find the right angle until I hit on the idea of using Zappedto magazine as a guide for to what games to look at. So each episode, over 2 episodes, we look at all the games that were reviewed in every issue of Zappedto, the seminal Commodore 64 magazine. So we are working from issue 1 onwards. We have done, where are we up to now? We're up to January 1986. So the first half of January 1986 has come out, as hopefully you can see there. And we are staying true to our course. So when I came up with that idea, I pitched that to Graham, and then Graham did his usual stuff of making it all shiny and good. So Graham, you tell us what you did.
So AD pitched me the idea. And like AD, I always had a bit of a penchant for doing a podcast. I've been got a long history with retro and with retro stuff and with the C64 in particular. And like AD, we're school friends. We were school friends over 30 years ago. We've never lost touch with that. And so we wanted to make sure. So from a technical, want to make sure it was at the right sort of tone and the right thing. So from a technical point of view, we needed to figure out a way during lockdown, because the UK has been like locked down. I mean, we all have, but we've been locked down for what seems like forever now. So we needed to find a way to be able to record this with a good fidelity, and we wanted good production values. I brought some ideas to that. So I wanted to use some good quality software. I wanted to make sure that we recorded it, because obviously Adrian has to record the audio at his end. I have to record the audio at my end. I then have to get the 2 audio streams, merge them together, which means that to get the synchronization at the beginning of every recording, I delete this, but AD has to do a loud beep.
I do.
To my shame. So he has to emit a loud squeak, which I can use to synchronize the audio at this end. And once we do that, then it's a matter of just going through the audio, cleaning the audio up, and making sure the balance is right. I then had to get a load of interstitial recordings, because my plan for the podcast was that when we reviewed the games, in between each game, I wanted a little bit of C64 music. We all know that the C64 has an incredibly good sound chip, right? So I wanted to sort of utilize that, where possible, exploit it as much as possible. So our background music for the podcast was always going to be C64 audio from games. And I'll talk about why that was quite interesting in a minute. And also then I wanted to make sure that whenever we changed from between games, we had a little bit of either the kind of music that you get in games that would be when you go from one level to the next, or if you died, or if you started the game. A lot of those C64 games from back then have that music. It's something you don't get anymore. But that kind of start the game, level game, end of game, mobile games have it a little bit maybe. But I wanted to use that for sort of in between the recordings. And then we discussed we just didn't want it to be just about me and AD talking about C64 games. We felt there needed to be a bit of a break. AD came up with a great idea of let's introduce some of the what was going on in the 80s at that time in the magazine. We'd played with the format. We recorded an episode, right? And AD will remember that we recorded episode 0, which was like a technical test. Everything that could have gone wrong in the episode did. So my microphone, I had a very expensive microphone that broke pretty much immediately. The Zoom that we were recording on went wrong. I think I deleted one of the audio recordings by accident. Adrian was on a headset with a microphone close to his mouth. So he had the worst plosives in the known universe. I was on a microphone that was too loud. So it was we just had to get the balance right. And we debated it, and we ended up putting episode 0 out. So you can actually go onto the website.
Here it is. Look, there it is.
So there's our pilot episode. So that was the least produced thing we ever did, because obviously we got a bit better at the production and we decided on the format. And over time, we decided that we were going to split the games up into sort of sections. We originally put all the good games, I think, last. Did we put the good games first, AD, or the bad games last?
It was good games first. Yeah.
And then we realized that if we did that, by the time people got to the end of the podcast, they were kind of doomed out because you've just been saying how bad these games were. So we figured we'd mix it up a bit. And then obviously we put in the music from that particular month around the 80s, the chart music from around this, what was going on. We originally had a little bit of news, but we just quickly found that most of the news in the 80s was really bleak and really sort of mostly about nuclear war. So we just kind of we just knocked that on the head, and we just focused on the music, on the movies that came out in the films. And we put a bit of a section into that. We originally split the podcast over 2 recordings because we record it in one sitting, but it's actually about 4 hours of recording. And so we thought, actually, do you know what? That's a long time. Let's split that into 2. And then we decided we were just going to make it episodic and just split it into more of a sequential part to make it make sense for people, which we did. And gradually over the time, we've managed to sort of get the format now. So we know that we're going to review the magazines. We split them into chunks. We have the music in the first episode. We do the second lot of games in the second episode and put the films and TV. And of course, my little addition, such as it was that I said to AD that there was a lot of crappy, and for want of a better description, rubbish adverts that appeared, games adverts that appeared back in the early days of the C64, not just in C64, but in games magazines in general. They didn't quite know how to advertise games. And so they went through a phase where the advertising for the games in magazines was really poor. And we decided to sort of take a focused look at that and just make that kind of the fun end of podcast thing that we do each time. So we look at what we call the crapverts, which are just the adverts, as you can see, where visually they don't make a lot of sense. And we thought that'd be a fun addition. So we've come over time to sort of get the format right, the technical aspects of right. I've upgraded my microphone, thank God. AD's now got a new microphone as well. So he's not on his headset, which means I don't have to filter his plosives for at least 2 hours of my life. It's been a journey, but do you know what? Gradually over time, we've got a nice following. People kind of like what we do. It's great to get on things like this so we can talk about it as well, because it's great to just meet like-minded people and just be able to chat. And there's been some amazing discussions in this video as well, especially with some of the Amos stuff that I was seeing, because I'm an old Amiga programmer. I'm an old C64 programmer. I go way back. So the 6502 stuff I was seeing, and then the old assembler stuff was really lighting my fires a little bit. Something I really do need to get back to given time. But at the same time, we've come a long way with that, I think, AD, right?
We have, yeah. And we've covered a lot. I mean, obviously from your side of things, you do a lot of the technical stuff, but it's been a bit of a journey of it's discovery, because we're playing loads of games. The thing is, we're playing loads of games that I've never heard of. And so sometimes that is can be hit and miss. Sometimes you find a hidden gem, but a lot of the time, we're playing a lot of games, and you can see here just from this. If you go to the website is zappedto.thepast.com. You can see all the games we've covered, and I think we're pushing well over 200 now that we've covered, and we're only 21 episodes in.
We play each one of those games as well, right?
We do. We make it a point of that we have to play every single game for as long as sometimes for as long as we can stomach, because they're not. There are highs and lows, as was noted in the reviews back then. We're getting better all the time, and we like to think we're gonna continue with this. This is something we have committed to. So I think there's about, I don't know how, there's about 90 odd issues. I think 90 odd issues of Zap. So I think it changes to Commodore format one or Commodore something later on. So we don't know how far along the line we're going to go, but I certainly have the plan that we're going to go up to 1990
Absolutely.
at least. So if you are looking for, while you're doing all your amazing technical stuff, if you're looking for something to listen to for a bit of entertainment about the Commodore 64, then hey, Zap to the past. That's what we are.
So it's good background. It's good to have on in the background.
Yeah.
And also, to be fair, I mean, like I say, I actually bought a C64 Maxi. 80's got it. We couldn't. My plan is to get an actual C64 at some point, a real old. Go to eBay, buy one, and make sure it works, because I know there's loads that don't. I did have one, and I stupidly gave it away. But to actually get a C64 and play these on the real hardware, at the moment, I've got a C64 Maxi. AD's got a C64 Mini. I have the clickiest micro switch joystick in the world. Yeah, if I use that joystick, I'm pretty sure everyone on this recording will be able to hear it because it clicks so loudly. So I've got to figure out and get a better joystick. But you know what? It's the best I can do at the moment to sort of play those on that emulation and play that. I'm getting an equivalent experience from it. And so at the very least, it's that. And we do play them all, good or bad. And we say that's the motto, kind of become the motto of the show. We play them so you don't have to, because as much as there's some amazing early games, and there are, and it's really great to come across some of those titles again. Because I stepped away from gaming for quite some time. I came back to it on AD's recommendation much later after AD, but I came back to it, and it's great to come back to some of these early games. I played all of these in my youth. It's not like I didn't. I was a member of a big demo group in the UK. We coded a lot of demos, but I was one of the chief swappers and coders. And so I ended up with lots and lots of legitimately acquired software on disk, to say the least, but I ended up with a lot of it. And so all of these games we've played at certain points, but some of them always stand out. So your Paradroids and your Byron Wiggins that we've waxed lyrical about on the podcast, those and as you see, the Frankies and the Summer Games too. Those games are genuinely brilliant games, even for back then. So it's great to revisit them and play them again and get that feeling for them. But for every Summer Games 2, you've got a Dickie's Diamonds or a Vegan Attack or some of those. So we have to tread that delicate balance. I find it's a great thing to be able to do. And if you want to follow the podcast and follow along, you can follow us on all the usual places. The great thing to do, though, is not just follow us, but play the games that we play. Experience them for yourselves, because as much as there's some real rubbish in there, there's some absolute gems as well. And when you find one, like I did when we went back and I replayed Way the Exploding Fist, which I hadn't done for quite a long time, it was just brilliant. You forget how great these games are. Even at the time, they were just really good. And the great thing is, sometimes in your mind, I don't know if Ada, you feel this, but I know these games coming up we haven't got to yet, and I know how good they are. So I know we're going to get International Karate. I know we're going to get things like that. I know it's coming soon. I get excited for those.
Yeah, there's a slew of games that we're looking at over the next few recordings that I'm quite looking forward to. But alongside those, yeah, we know those big games, like I said, the Exploding Fist, your Drop Zones, your Frankies, your Summer Games too. But the good thing about this, what I've enjoyed doing, is a sort of, it's kind of becoming like some kind of oral record of all the games, everything, because there's a lot of talk around. You find there's a lot of talk around a lot of the games. Singular games, you get those kind of games that are always talked about. But what I'm finding in doing this is that it's kind of opening up conversation around, who talks about Tour de France, or who talks about Dickie's Diamonds, or Ghost Chase, or Miguel Ace, or Out on a Limb. These kind of games, whether they should be spoken about is open to debate. But it's good to give these kind of games a re-look, because maybe we played some of them, and some of them I have no memory of. So, but that's kind of what I'm enjoying from this, is going back and playing through all these different kind of experiences and just seeing what at times what the Commodore 64 was capable of. And also, just from a personal point of view, I teach game design, and one of the modules I get my students to do is to actually remake an old game. And this is proving an absolute goldmine of stuff to get them to do, because it's like, here's a game, remake this in 3D. It's what you can do. And they do, they really enjoy it. So that's it's part and parcel of why doing this has loads of benefits for us. But yeah, I don't think I've got much more to say. There you go. That's us. It's up to the past. Unless you've got anything, Graham.
No. The only thing I was going to add just to that was that it's amazing when you play these games that you see the genesis in these games for the games that are coming out now. All of those great big games, all of the multi-million-dollar super franchise games. At certain points, we've noted that there's certain elements of these early C64 games, and even the games that because it's often if they're multi-platform, that the early acorns in these games that get planted, and then they've grown through all those designers and developers who've grown up with these machines and that code, even through the Amiga and the Sega and all the rest of it. Some of those core themes remain. The shooter on the C64 is still a shooter now, whether it's on the Xbox or whether it's on the PlayStation 5 or whatever. Some of the fundamental game mechanics in those don't change, and I find that quite fascinating. But it's been an amazing experience that we're doing, and I can't wait to play more of the games. And a great chance for us to be able to speak to some like-minded people, which is really, really cool.
Yeah. And if you do want to find us, or we're just to give us where you can get us, we're at Zappedto on Twitter, Zappedto ThePast on Facebook. We've got the group and a page, and Zap to the Past on Instagram. And obviously, there's just anywhere you search for Zap to the Past, you're gonna hit us.
You'll find us.
You'll find us there. Yeah.
Excellent.
So there you go.
Excellent. Thanks a lot. I think it's really a challenge. To me, it sounds really like a challenge to play all these games, because there were of course a lot of good games, but there was a lot of trash actually.
Well, like I said, so far we've been recording. When did we start recording? Was it November?
Yeah.
So we're in June. We've over 200 games we've played in that period of time. So yeah, it's and God knows how. I think we'll be well over 1,000 by the time this is finished. But we're going to be here for the next 2 or 3 years anyway. So count on us for your Monday morning. It will come out on a Monday morning, by the way, as well. So if you and anywhere you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, any kind of download stuff, we're there. So if you want a bit of background listening for your week about Commodore 64 games, hey, there you go.
Yeah. Now I'm curious. I really want to listen to the pilot. The number 0. That's the first one I want to hear.
I think that's actually got the most games we ever reviewed for a single episode in there.
Yeah, part 2 is all those. Yeah, because what we did was just to sort of give it some rationale behind episode 0, because Zap 64 started in May 1985. We were well aware the Commodore 64 was 3 years old by that point, or approaching 3 years old. So we had a whole 1982, 83, 84 to sort of go back and look at, but we had no guide to that. So what we did is, and we just picked games that we kind of knew, had played, had a reputation from those years. I just went to Lemon 64 and just went through their back catalogue, put 1983 in the search, and went and had a look. And we picked a chunk, and we've made a big list, and we highlighted the ones we wanted to play, and that's the ones we've got there. So there's tons we didn't pick and we didn't look at. So you might look at it and go, oh man, you didn't play Bruce Lee, and we've had that comment from people, or you didn't play Fort Apocalypse. It's like, well, we can't play everything. We try to, but especially from a 3-year period and the first time we did it. But that was the rationale behind that. So once we got to episode 1, we had a clear guide to the games we wanted to look at. But even then, in issue 1 of Zap, we couldn't fit it all in. There's about 25 games. I think we did 19 of them. But we try. We are getting to a point now where we're playing everything they review. We don't do adventures and we don't do strategy. That's our motto. Because we're not adventure people.
And you don't want to spend 3 hours.
That's exactly it. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Fully understand. So thanks a lot. So zapptothepast.com, I guess, and then you have mentioned as well your Facebook. You're on Facebook and on Twitter.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the chat. I don't really expect questions here. No, there are none. But of course, if they come, you can still answer them in the chat. I will stop the recording now. We have reached